Hello again, everyone. It's Miss Lindsay again here with another lesson in our series about King Saul. Today, we are going to learn about King Saul offering a sacrifice. Our Bible verse for today is 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 14. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be commander over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. If you remember from last time, we talked about when King Saul was officially made king at Gilgal. He wanted a king so that they could be like everyone else, but Samuel reminded everyone that God is the king. And so today in our lesson we're going to learn King Saul's going to take a little turn. So far he's been a pretty good king. He's done well. But if you remember, the Lord warned everyone that having a king wasn't going to be everything they thought it was going to be. And so King Saul kind of starts to take a turn here, and we're going to see how he does that in this lesson. So King Saul had a son, and his name was Jonathan. And at this point in time, Saul had been king for 2 years, and he picked 3,000 men. 2,000 men went with Saul, and 1,000 went with Jonathan. Saul blew the trumpet, and they attacked the Philistines. Saul called the people together at Gilgal, and the Philistines gathered together to fight them. The Philistines had 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horses, and a multitude of people to fight. So they had a whole lot more people coming to this battle than Saul did. So when the men of Israel saw all of the Philistines, they were worried. They knew they were in danger, and so they hid in caves and rocks and holes. Saul was still in Gilgal, and the people were scared. He waited for 7 days for Samuel to come, but Samuel didn't show up. Saul went ahead and offered a sacrifice without waiting for Samuel. Samuel had told Saul to wait for him at Gilgal, but Saul got tired of waiting, and he didn't do what Samuel had told him to do. Have you guys ever done that? Have you guys ever gotten tired of waiting for something? Your parents told you to wait until after dinner to eat that dessert, but you didn't want to? Have you ever snuck a bite and thought that they didn't know? Well, guess what? They knew. And Samuel knew, too, that Saul had not done what he asked him to do. So as soon as Saul finished the sacrifice, Samuel came. Saul went out to meet him, and Samuel said, "Saul, what have you done?" Saul told Samuel that when he saw the people had left, and Samuel didn't come when he was supposed to, and the Philistines were gathered together, he decided to make a sacrifice to the Lord. So what did Saul do? He made excuses for his not listening, right? You guys don't do that, do you? You don't try to blame your bad decisions on your brothers and sisters or on your friends, right? That's not how we're supposed to do. So Samuel told Saul that he was unwise. He told him that he didn't keep God's commandments. God would have established Saul's kingdom over Israel forever. However, now Saul's kingdom will not continue. The Lord has looked for a man after his own heart. God has commanded him to be the leader over his people. And Samuel said, "Saul, you have not kept God's commands." So Samuel left, and Saul had only 600 men with him. Jonathan stayed with his people in Gibeah. The Philistines were encamped in Michmash. Raiders left the Philistines' camp and were divided into 3 companies, and they went in different directions. There wasn't a blacksmith in the land of Israel. This meant that the Israelites had to go to the Philistines to have their animal equipment and weapons sharpened. On the day of the battle, Saul and Jonathan were the only men with weapons. Jonathan took his armor-bearers to the other side of the Philistine camp, where the Philistine garrison was. He didn't tell Saul that he was leaving or where he was going. Jonathan had decided to see if God wanted him to fight the Philistines. They showed themselves to the Philistines, and the Philistines said to Jonathan, "Come to us, we will show you something." Jonathan took this as the sign that God wanted them to fight the Philistines. Jonathan told his armor-bearer to follow him, because God will give them the battle. Jonathan climbed up on his hands and knees. His armor-bearer followed up after him. Jonathan and his armor-bearer killed about 20 Philistines by themselves. Then there was a rumble, like an earthquake. So Saul decided he better take roll and make sure everyone was there. That's when he found out that Jonathan and his armor-bearer were missing. Saul and the people that were gathered together went to the Philistine battle, and there was so much confusion, so many people fighting and joining the battle. The Philistines ended up running from the battle in Michmash because God was with the people, and the battle moved to Bethaven. So God was with Jonathan and Saul, even though they had far less people fighting the Philistines. But all during Saul's reign, he continued to fight all his enemies, including the Amalekites and the Philistines. And there were violent battles against the Philistines during Saul's whole life. So now on to our review questions. Again, there are worksheets that your parents can print off for you, or that you can look at on their phone or computer while we go through these. So how long has Saul been a king at this point? Saul had been king for 2 years. What did the men of Israel do when they saw the Philistines? They hid in caves and behind rocks and in holes. Saul waited for 7 days for Samuel to arrive in Gilgal. What did he do before Samuel got there? He offered a sacrifice, even though he was told to wait for Samuel. So Samuel told Saul that his actions were unwise and that he didn't keep God's commands. What was the result of Saul's actions? He lost his kingdom. During the battle with the Philistines, they had something that Saul and his men did not have. What was that? They didn't have a blacksmith to sharpen their weapons. Now for a bonus question. If you were listening really close, when Samuel was rebuking Saul for not keeping God's commandments, he told him that the Lord has looked for a man after his own heart. Who is a man after God's own heart? Because we're going to be learning about this guy coming up in our next lesson. If you think you know who it is, ask your parents to help you type the answer in the comment box under this video, and let me know who you think it is. Alright, that's our lesson for today. It was fun talking to you guys again. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.